Sorry. Welcome to tonight on Nightside with news from Matt Nika, sports from Tiger Woods, and weather with Guess Gordon. I think it's supposed to rain. Hello, America. This is Paul Harvey. We are discussing tonight Spoon River Anthology by Edgar Lee Masters. This was written around the early 1900s about a fictional town with around 200 monologues of people who are all intertwined and can relate to one another. Welcome back. Today we're discussing, of course, Spoon River Anthology. One thing that is seen quite often is death. Many times there is death, and betrayal, and hatred. One of these people in this story, Oscar Hummel, was killed. Death. By A.D. Blood. Oscar Hummel was the town drunkard, and one day he was stumbling out of the bar, walking home, or so he thought, when who should appear but A.D. Blood. A.D. Blood, not liking Oscar Hummel, killed him with a stick. There's some more death for you. After that, A.D. speaks of Dora Williams, who was the daughter of Mrs. Williams. Dora was poisoned by the Count, who is A.D. Blood. A.D. Blood mentions several other names such as Daisy Fraser and Ben Pantier, along with Justice Arnett. Benjamin Pantier was married to Mrs. Ben Pantier, very obviously, and they both hated each other very much. There's another example of hatred. And we're back. I'm still Paul Harvey. Afterwards, Mrs. Ben Pantier had a child with Ben Pantier, who was Reuben Pantier. Reuben Pantier was a child who loved his teacher, Emily Sparks, very much, but he wasn't sure if she loved him back. She, in fact, did love him back, and searched for the quote-unquote little boy she loved in her class best of all. She was quite an interesting lady. Ben Pantier, as I mentioned before, was a very strange character. He was hated by his wife, and his wife spoke of a story where she has a secret hidden under a mound that we will never know. I'm wondering if she killed her husband. Her husband lay in the graveyard with his dog Nig, who was his best friend. Ben actually had an affair with Daisy Fraser, so that's probably why he and his wife didn't get along too well. The druggist trainer often spoke of how much they hated each other and wrote that they are chemicals that don't mix well. Ben Pantier, of course, and Daisy Fraser had an affair, and their affair led to a child of Ben Jr. Fraser, who was the child of the two. Daisy Fraser spoke of many people such as Reverend Pete, Amos Sibley, and the circuit judge. The circuit judge was spoken of as a person who misused his power quite often, which was not good. Amos Sibley hated his wife, not unlike Ben Fraser. His wife, Mrs. Sibley, committed adultery, oh look, more adultery, and has a secret that somebody will never find. That kind of reminds me of Mrs. Ben Pantier. As Daisy speaks of Reverend Pete, she says she gave a trunk of sermons to Reverend Pete. Or Reverend Pete gave those sermons to Butchard, and he was not such a great guy. He burned the sermons of Reverend Pete, and that didn't make him too happy. Let's backtrack a ways back to A.D. Blood. He spoke of Justice Arnett, who was mentioned by A.D. Blood. She had a docket with an iron rim that was filled with gasoline and blew up. This was definitely not a good happening. This blow up burned Butch Weldy, who hurt him really, really bad. Butch Weldy leads to Fiddler Jones, who, obviously by his name, likes to fiddle. And he speaks of the clouds of dust that remind him of singing and fiddling, which he loved oh so much. We find that Fiddler Jones is the father of Cooney Potter. Cooney talks of getting more and more land, but these dust pillars that Fiddler Jones talks about were not liked by Cooney Potter because they destroyed his crops. This was not good for him. Butch Weldy was not such a great guy. He captured Minerva Jones, son of Indignation Jones, and was hurt very, very bad. Later on, Doc Myers found her and tried to aid her, but she was hurting so bad that he took her off of what was keeping her alive to let her die. This didn't please Doc Myers' wife, Mrs. Myers, and he blamed her husband for her death. This book, as you can see, portrays how difficult and bitter life was in the early 20th century. All these people, not having such fantastic lives, found this out the hard way. Have a nice night, and good night from Harvey Penny. Wait a minute, that's not my name. My name's Paul Harvey, not Harvey Pennick. What was I thinking? Can't believe I have to do my own makeup. This place is so cheap. I should have gone to News Channel 20 and worked with Guest Gordon. They're making my comb my own hair. I don't even have a mirror. Anybody got a mirror? Somebody, please? This coffee's kind of cold. That's the worst coffee I've ever had. Who got this for me? We're talking about spoon. Oh, come on, it's upside down. Put that on the blooper reel, please. Woo! Stop it. I'm dearly sorry for the poor acting. I'm not even close to a professional. I'm an engineer. Thanks. Have a good night.